The Sultan of the Two Rivers. This is the story of two rivers. Rivers that gave birth to great civilizations. Rivers that fed people with their generosity. Two veins of life flowing through a land known as the cradle of civilization. Rivers called the Euphrates and the Tigris. For thousands of years, they gave food, water, and dignity to Syria and Iraq. They didn't just nourish the soil, they nourished identity. They wrote the story of life in this region. But now, these rivers are dying. And not from natural causes. No drought began this. No god cursed them. It was a man. A powerful man. A man with an obsession for control. A man known in whispers and satire as the Sultan of the Two Rivers. He doesn't ride a horse or wear a crown. He wears designer suits, attends international forums, and signs billion-dollar contracts. But his tools of power are ancient, just like the pharaohs who once controlled the Nile. Rivers of civilization. Since 2000 BC, the Euphrates and Tigris have fed kingdoms and empires. These rivers gave birth to writing, to agriculture, to law. Mesopotamia was not made by kings, but by rivers. These rivers made Syria and Iraq food exporters for centuries. The lands were fertile. The farmers were skilled. The balance of water and work brought abundance. Even in modern times, these nations were proud of their self-reliance. They produced wheat, fruits, and vegetables not just for themselves, but for others. Food was a symbol of independence. The rivers were everything. They fed the animals. They quenched the thirst of entire cities. They gave birth to generations. Entire cultures were built around their flow. But things changed. The laughter along the riverbanks faded. The green lands turned gray. And a slow, deliberate hand began choking the flow. That hand belonged to the Sultan. The emperor who dammed the rivers. He controls the mountains where the rivers are born. That gave him an idea, a dangerous one. He would tame the rivers. Not to protect them. Not to respect nature. But to dominate it. He launched a massive construction project, 22 dams. Not small ones. Huge, towering walls of concrete that could hold back oceans. The Ataturk Dam. The Ilisu Dam. The Sylvan Dam. These were not just engineering feats. They were tools of control. With each dam, less water flowed south. He told the world it was for electricity. For farming. For peace. But if you ask the farmers in Iraq and Syria, they will tell you it was for profit. For power. For punishment. And so, the rivers slowed. Villages noticed first. The water level dropped. Then the fish disappeared. Then the farms. And with them went the people. Desert where life once lived. In Iraq, the Mesopotamian marshes, once a green wonder of the world, began to crack and fade. The buffalo that grazed there died. The boats that floated there sank into dry mud. In Syria, once bustling farms near the Euphrates became cemeteries of crops. Families left. The young searched for jobs elsewhere. Some walked into the arms of war. All this while the Sultan smiled. The rivers are ours, he said. They begin in our land. He wasn't entirely wrong. But he wasn't right either. Because rivers, like air and light, were never meant to be owned. Some leaders cried foul. Some experts pointed to climate change. But the farmers knew better. They knew the rain didn't stop, it was stolen. They knew drought didn't dry the rivers, greed did. And they began calling him the Sultan of the Two Rivers. Not out of respect, but out of disbelief. He didn't come with tanks. He didn't bomb villages. He didn't send soldiers. He just turned the tap. The illusion of progress. In his speeches, he talks about progress. About irrigation. About development. But progress for whom? He built mega hydro plants, lighting up his cities while villages downstream sat in darkness. He turned barren hills into green Turkish fields, while Iraqi children drank from puddles. And he did it with a smile. In conferences, he spoke of balance. He blamed Syria and Iraq for poor farming. He said they waste water. But can you waste what you no longer receive? This isn't equality. It's empire building. He turned the Euphrates and Tigris into weapons. Not with violence, but with silence. And the world applauded. They shook his hand. They signed trade deals. Because the world doesn't run on truth. It runs on business. From food baskets to breadlines. The countries that once fed empires now import rice with loans and wheat with sorrow. They once sent food across borders. Now they line up for international aid. The rivers that built cities are now the reason people abandon them. It's not just about water. It's about dignity. About the loss of purpose. About the betrayal of geography. The Sultan didn't just dam rivers. He damned futures. He damned memories. He damned nations. He calls it development. But it feels more like punishment. And in every dry canal, in every empty well, his shadow lingers. The silent colonization. This is not war with guns. This is colonization with blueprints. No soldier crossed borders. But entire cities fell. No missiles were launched. But entire livelihoods were lost. He did what many invaders couldn't. He took over without a fight. He conquered by turning nature into a tool. And all the while, he stood as a hero in his own land. The savior of his people. The genius of dams. He even said one day, the Euphrates drying up is in the scriptures. Yes, it is mentioned in the holy books. That when the Euphrates dries, it will reveal treasures. That Gog and Magog will rise. That the end is near. But what the scriptures didn't say was this. It wasn't fire from the skies. It wasn't divine wrath. It was the Sultan, with his concrete walls and thirsty ambition, who brought the river to its end. Maybe Gog and Magog didn't have to come. Maybe the Sultan took their job and drank all the water. Echoes from the dry beds. People who lived by the rivers still speak to them. Even as they dry. Even as the soil cracks. They say, our grandfathers bathed in you. Our mothers washed our clothes in you. Our children drank from you. Why did you leave us? And the rivers reply, we were stolen. The Sultan stole of our water. They whisper tales of a time when villages were green, markets were full, and water was free. Now, it's sold. Controlled. Measured in megawatts and revenue. And those who dare speak about it are dismissed as dreamers. But the dream was real. And the theft is real too. A sultan without a crown. He tried his whole life to become an emperor. He presented himself as protector of Syria, Iraq and Palestine. He is a deceiver. He played all sides. He hosted peace talks and armed rebels. He condemned invasions and made his own. He spoke of religion and traded with enemies. But the only thing he truly ruled was the water. Water of Syria and Iraq. And even that, he ruled with cruelty. Now, he walks through corridors of power. But behind every smile lies a riverbed gasping for life. He tells his people, "We are strong." But the strength came at the cost of neighbors. He writes his name on plaques beside each dam. But the rivers will not remember him kindly. He tried all his life to become an emperor. But in the end, he became the Sultan of the two rivers. And history will write, he ruled the flow, but lost the soul.